Feel your bodies in whatever position you've adopted. Just start noticing how it's stopped moving as much as it was a few moments ago as we prepared for this practice, as we moved about, whatever, having your lunches or going about your work, your errands. Movement, movement, movement. And now, relative stillness. I'll ring the bell, and we let the bell symbolize the beginning of this chapter, the beginning of this segment. And I'll just say a few words before I ring the bell, just to say that this segment, it's like if you can imagine a line and then cutting the line into different pieces. And so everything that happened up until now, earlier this morning, that would have been, it belongs to a segment in the past. And if you like, into that segment you can bring in what happened last night and the whole of yesterday, and in fact your whole history. Let's call it a very long line, but a segment, and that segment is called the past. And when I ring the bell, when you hear the bell ringing, enter into this segment. And what does that mean? We'll simplify it as much as we can. Entering into this segment, it just means entering into the present moment. And what are the indicators of this present moment? The present moment can only be, maybe not only, but it can be experienced through our senses. Sense of hearing, the sense of sight if your eyes are open or even closed. Your sense of smell, your sense of taste, and of course your sense of touch. So begin activating your 5 senses and notice how your senses tell you where you are. And so you're inhabiting your body. And by inhabiting, I simply mean you're bringing your mind, you're inviting your mind to join your body. And you would have noticed that depending on how busy a day you have already had, depending on how busy a day you believe you will have later on, the mind will be rushing around here and there, into the past, into the future. I should have done this, I have to do this. And that's what this process of arriving is about. It's about inviting the mind to join us in this present moment. And through this exploration of the present moment, through the senses, the mind is the tool with which we use to translate what we can hear, what we can or cannot see, what we can feel through our skin, what we can smell through our noses and taste through our tongues and the regions within the mouth. Because the mind is our filter, the library of information. It learned what the bell sounds like. And depending on what you can hear around you, the mind is what identifies. The mind is the filter and the tool through which you identify those sounds. Car alarm, voices, sirens, roadworks. And then on top of that, it will identify what the sound is that you can hear right now, the ticking of a clock, the humming of your fridge. And then the mind has a further, it doesn't just stop there. It has decided which sounds it likes, which ones it doesn't like. So it's not very straightforward. And also the mind, it also has information about why you are here seated in this way. Notice that we all know that we've come here to do some sort of a meditation practice, mindfulness practice. And then the mind has learned, it's read many books, it's been to many meditation classes, and it's been through many different meditation practices, and it's decided that it knows what meditation is. Sometimes, depending on which teacher you've been to, which classes you've been to, sometimes there is an expectation that there needs to be absolute silence for us to practice meditation. And I've been to some places, some meditation places where they would tell anybody with young children to leave the room. They would ask anybody with who's coughing to leave the room because they don't want them to disturb the practice. And when we've been for any of those practices, and of course that most important thing, turn off your mobile phones because the ringing is going to disturb us. If you've been to any of those sessions, those meditations, then you might enter into this practice with expectations, similar expectations which you bring with your mind, that I expect absolute silence and anything less will not do. And then when the roadworks start, when the car alarm starts going off, when the sirens outside your window make sounds, you begin saying, oh, this is too much. I can't meditate because I'm not getting it the way I want it to be. And then you resist the present moment. But at this early juncture in the practice, let's remind ourselves that this is called the art of allowing. And so we don't even have to call it a meditation practice if you don't want to. We're not going to call it mindfulness or any of those labels that you've practiced before. We'll just call it the art of allowing and dancing with the present moment. And how do you dance? It's a rhythm. You move to the rhythm of the music. You move to the rhythm of your partner. You coordinate. you let go, you enjoy. And so what can you hear? Are there any sounds that are unpleasant or disturbing your practice? First of all, notice the judgments that you have of this sound. And I know that some of you are not having trouble with sounds. You might be surrounded by pin drop silence, and so you may be thinking, this is completely irrelevant to me. But this very same practice applies to our thoughts and our mind. And many of us, we if not sounds, the mind might be taking us in different directions. And again, we've seen statues of Buddhas, we've read stories, we've read autobiographies of great yoga teachers who talk about silence and stillness and peace. And if you're not feeling that, then automatically you think, oh, I must be failing in this practice. And notice how the mind has accumulated all of this information. And so the same way we notice the judgments about the sounds around us, we notice the judgments about our thoughts. Not only the judgments about the thoughts, but the judgments about us having these thoughts. Bad, you shouldn't be thinking, you should be experiencing peace. And if you notice these judgments, you've started to separate yourself from the judgments. And if you want more space, if you want to observe your mind and the judgments that emanate from the mind, try giving the sounds permission to exist. Try giving your thoughts permission to exist. Give them permission and allow them. The art of allowing. I welcome you. I welcome the sounds around me. I welcome this process called thinking. But welcoming, it doesn't quite mean holding on to them, grabbing onto the thoughts, but simply imagining them to be no different from the clouds that you see on the sky. Visualize the clouds in the sky. You looking up into the sky. And for those of us in London, it's a very grey day, and the clouds, it just seems endless. Without those gaps, those familiar gaps of blue. For some of us, that's very much what our thinking process is like, continuous. But first just notice the clouds. And one quality you'll notice is it's moving. The clouds are moving. You have to be very still in order to notice that the clouds are moving, because when you move too much, you move with the clouds, or you fail to see the movements. And if you've ever felt any of those emotions that feel less than good, anger, frustration, sadness, even distress and depression, and hopelessness. It simply means that we've been moving with the clouds. Our heads stuck deep into the center of the cloud. Our vision literally clouded by the inky mist, the gray inky mist, believing that the clouds are carrying us from the past into the future. I'll ring the bell so that you can stop moving with the clouds. And how do you do this? Come back to your body. Just begin inhabiting your body and start just focus on those points of contact between your body and the cushion or the chair underneath you. Feel the interaction between your body and that surface. Just so that you know that you're not moving with the clouds, that you are here. And now with the second bell, lower your center of gravity so that you anchor yourself not only to the cushion and chair, but to the flooring underneath you. The same way a large ship brings down its anchor so that it stops moving with the currents of the sea, and in our case, the clouds. And even deeper. And these sensations spreading from underneath our bodies, up our legs, down the legs, all the way to the soles of the feet, so that we begin to discover what we are clothed in, what the lower parts of the body are clothed in. There might be something loose and comfortable, or something a bit tighter. The way the fabric rests, it might be a stretchy fabric, it might be the opposite. And then spreading upward into your upper body so that you begin to feel the clothing that's wrapping itself around the upper parts of the body, its weight, its different layers, and the weight of these layers on your skin. In particular, feel the weight of the fabric on your shoulder. Feel the way it cushions your shoulder. And I know the fabric feels quite light because of how strong our bodies are, but really feel the weight of the fabric pulling down on your shoulders so that your shoulder muscles begin to loosen a little bit more. They begin to fall. You feel the arms at the side of the shoulders, pulling down the shoulders that little bit more. All pulling downwards. The forces of gravity pulling down upon the muscle, pulling down upon the bone. All reaching those points of contact between the body and the surfaces underneath it. And you're beginning to be quite confident, quite a lot more confident that you are here. anchored. Where is here? Here isn't as important as now. Here and now, this present moment. My voice, your posture, your clothing, your tablets, your computers, your devices in front of you. Very simple, isn't it? Nothing more. Everything else, stories that we bring with us, that we carry with us. Just knowing that everything else is a story can sometimes be the biggest help and relief. So when you see something pop up, know that that is a cloud. And the cloud is moving. It will pass. It is passing. In fact, one thought often turns into another and another, and it keeps changing forms, changing in size, changing in speed. But there's something different about this experience now. We are observing it from this space called the present moment. Our identification is shifting from the cloud to observing the cloud. And we talked about how today in London, it's the clouds, they don't seem to end. It's one continuous blanket of grayness. But what about the space underneath the clouds? How do you notice this? How do we take in that space underneath the clouds? That space between our body and the lowest point of the cloud. So much space which we simply we didn't notice because we've trained ourselves through habit to notice form, to notice those voices in the mind, those images, those patterns. When I ring the bell now, just breathe. Breathe in this space. And if you can't see it, feel it. Feel it entering in through your nostrils. Feel your lungs filling up. The stomach rising. And then release the space, breathing it out, feeling the sensations that this process brings to your body. This process called breathing. I know we've all practiced experiencing the breath many times. And so with the sound of this bell, let us invoke that quality called the beginner's mind, which again, it involves releasing all of those other experiences we've ever experienced with regard to our breath. So we enter more fully into the present moment, which means every intake of breath becomes the first breath. It becomes the equivalent of a new birth. And so breathing in, but breathing in as deeply as you can. And when it comes time to exhale, exhaling and releasing as slowly and as gently as you can, so that the sensations become so much more vivid. You slow the process down, savoring, experiencing the movement of those molecules, carbon dioxide and whatever else is being released through the nostrils as it brushes against your nasal passage, as it brushes against your upper lip. And then once again, breathing in as deeply as you can. And noticing also how as you change the pace of your breathing, your mind begins to align itself even more with your breath. Simply because this new pace of breathing, this new rhythm, is somewhat being regulated through the assistance of the mind and its intention. And if you breathe in, if every intake of breath becomes a new beginning, a new birth, you could even visualize yourself as a tiny little baby popping out into this world, taking your first breath. A blank slate, newness, freshness, and exhaling. The exhalation representing a complete releasing of all of the previous breaths you've ever taken. A complete releasing of all of those previous segments that we spoke about. Those segments before this practice began. Those segments before even this moment. Everything that transpired over the past few minutes, the early part of this practice, releasing it so that you inhabit this moment more fully than ever before. Feeling its lightness. Feeling the lightness of this moment. You can release, along with the air that you no longer need, you can release your name. And if you release your name, you know that your name relates to the form, this body that we wear temporarily on this planet. We can release the form. And if you release the form, you can release all of the judgments that have ever been levied against you. Not only the bad ones, but also the good ones. Noticing how little we need, how we don't really need those judgments in order to survive. how we're sitting and breathing. And so we release. You could even give yourself a new name if you like. I don't know how much you know about many Eastern teachers. They give their students new names, very long and names that mean different things. But the names usually mean very little. It's the new beginning that come with the names that is of true importance. With new names, people redefine themselves. They release old patterns. Everything from their past they had no use for. And we all know that we define ourselves through the eyes of our parents. Some of us. Through our parents, through our teachers, through the magazines that we read, that define what is good and what is bad, what we should look like, what we should sound like, what our taste in music, food, movies should be like. So many different accumulations, what we should own. We release, let go, and emerge light, free of much of that baggage, almost as though every breath became a reset button. Those reset buttons you have on your phones that completely erases everything from the past. Guilt, whatever else, which weighs us down. Even our past memories. Have you noticed how sometimes even just what you experienced 2 weeks ago, you don't remember it very accurately? Because 2 weeks has passed by. You might have had a conversation. You might have read a magazine or a book. And you don't remember word for word what happened in the conversation, that event, that experience. And many of us, we hold on to memories from much earlier, memories which we have thought over and over again. It's perhaps time for us to ask how accurate those memories actually are. And if you ask two siblings in the same family, they've both had the same parents, similar experiences, but they both experienced it in completely different ways. Having revisited certain events and thoughts over and over again in the past, let's release all of that now, shall we? I'll ring the bell this time so that we may begin again. The new birth, the new start, breathing in for the first time. Breathing in as deeply as you can. Bringing yourself back to the sensations that you can experience so that the mind, it leaves that past and it joins you into the present moment, feeling the coolness of the breath as it enters, the dryness of the breath as it enters, the speed of the breath as it enters your body. And now releasing, feeling the warmth, the increased level of humidity as the breath leaves your body. the lightness of your body as you release not just the breath, but all of that information which may or may not be true, which has simply been recreated from a time in the past. And now I'll ring the bell just so that you can move your bodies, you can adopt a new posture, you can have a sip of water, you can stretch your bodies. But these movements that we allow during this, or we intend during these practices, they too can be used as a part of the practice by bringing a sense of continuity. Notice how the movement unfolds, which muscles pull, which ones push, which ones contract, and which ones expand. What happens within your joint, what happens after the movement. So much information. All tools. It's not the movements that are important, but the practice is the experience. And as your body experiences these changes, these movements, the taste of the water that you might have just had, the mind, it leaves those stories from the past. It leaves many of those things you worry about and stress about in the future, and it too arrives into the only moment that ever exists. This present moment. Some teachers call it awareness, presence, stillness, being. The words don't matter. After all, they are just labels and sounds attempting to describe something so much more vast than the image that appears within our minds when we hear these words. In this part of the practice, we'll do a body scan, and we'll use light to represent the awareness that we will bring to the different parts of our body. Just because awareness, it's a word, and for each one of us, we'll have a different meaning to the word awareness. We're seeking out the experience. And light doesn't quite have a form. It doesn't really have a shape. Maybe that's why we use light, so that it best describes this experience of awareness. But let us infuse this light with certain qualities. You can infuse it with any quality you would like to bring to your body, to the way you feel. We all like kindness. We like knowing. We like ease. Let us bring these qualities to this light. We like being soothed. We like not being in a hurry. We like what relief feels like. And relief is a very flexible word, because you don't have to, it doesn't mean you have to feel completely joyful and full of smiles and bubbly. It just means I feel better than I did before. And that's all we're not looking for anything, but we just notice what unfolds. So most of us, we're in places, we find ourselves surrounded by light, daylight. Some of us, there might be bulbs in the room. So feel the light. Actually, how can you feel the light? Just feel the surfaces of your body, the air around you. We might need a bit of help from the mind, because we know that this space is infused with light. There's energy in this space around us, which allows us to see all the forms around us. And this light, somehow we've reasoned that the light is falling upon our skin. Now with our mind's eye, let's focus this light around the space just above the eyebrows, where the forehead is. And this light, it begins to concentrate itself around the skin, and then bringing some of those qualities, ease, comfort. You can also have healing and balance, where the skin loosens itself. And if the skin in the forehead, around the forehead, loosens itself, you know that it's connected to the eyebrows. So the eyebrows, they begin to relax. And above, on the upper area, the forehead is connected to the scalp. And so this light of awareness, it spreads throughout the skin that surrounds our head, the top end, the back, the sides. You could bring back a memory of what it felt like to have warm oil poured on your scalp, if you've ever had one of those massages at a Ayurveda treatment center or something like that, or maybe a warm shower where the water relaxed your scalp and soothed it. Visualizing this liquid light bathing your scalp and then penetrating through the skin into the bone, massaging its way through the bone and into the space within where the brain sits. The brain, which hopefully has very little to do right now and has more reasons to just be, as we sit relatively still or lie down relatively still. These qualities of ease, of healing, of balancing, reaching all of the regions within the brain. And the way in which the brain connects to the eyes and the ears and the sense of smell and the sense of taste. And so this light, it's beginning to spread throughout the whole head, the surfaces of the face, the mouth, the ears, the jawbone, the tongue, and most importantly, that part right at the back of the skull, which where the spinal column is planted into this top end of the spinal column, lighting up as this light reaches it, and this liquid light now flowing down the spinal column, so you're beginning to become aware of the posture that you have adopted, the arch that seems to support the whole upper body, the shoulder, the back muscles surrounding the spinal column, stretching the top end of the spinal column upward, the tail end downward, allowing the fluids and the energies within the spinal column to flow more easily and comfortably. Your body balancing itself. And then this light of awareness spreading into the chest, the neck, from the shoulders down through the arms, all the way into the tips of the fingers. You're beginning to become aware, more aware of your body. It's like a jigsaw puzzle being put together. You know your face, your head, the placement of the arms, the space where the hands are resting, the points of contact between skin, if there are parts of your body that are touching against them. Your arms may be resting on your laps. What you feel through your palms, whether it's the hands are touching each other or not. The whole upper body illumined by this light. The organs within the chest, the organs within the mid-regions, the digestive system, the intestines within, all experiencing ease, all experiencing balance. Occasionally even stepping outside of your body so that you may view almost as though you've seen your form in a mirror, and so stepping outside of your body so that you interfere with its workings as little as possible. Most of our illnesses and physical problems come about through this interference, us interfering with our bodies. We worry, we stress ourselves out. Certain muscles and organs become very tense, chemicals being released, and they bring our bodies into a state of dis-ease. And so by simply stepping outside of your body, you stop the interference. And the body's own intelligence takes over. It's always been there. But now it can balance, repair, heal. That's what a state of being is. That's why they call it well-being, I guess. Because it's always here. We're just stepping outside. Releasing the need to interfere and disturb the process. The light flowing downward through the pelvic region, through the legs, spending a little bit of time around the joint, so that the knee joint that is, so that you can experience the different regions within the knee, the outer kneecap, the muscles and ligaments within, and then that inner part of the knee where the bend happens between the upper and the lower parts of the leg. And then the calves, the shins, the ankles, all the way down to the soles of the feet and the toes. So that your whole body is now covered in this light that we call awareness. Trying to release any definitions that you have of awareness, and simply reverting back to the experience of sitting here breathing. I'll ring the bell now. And this time the bell, it's going to give us an opportunity to allow this light to begin shining through our skin into the spaces around us. Because up until now, it sometimes feels as though we're attempting to contain this light. But this light, it's the essence of freedom. And I suppose almost everything that we want in our lives is so that we may experience freedom. We want money, we want health, we want relationships. At least we want the kind of relationships that give us that balance between security, freedom, companionship. But freedom's in there, isn't it? Freedom. And now let's release this light into this space around us, so that the light can be free, this awareness can be free, this consciousness can be experienced. Reaching the different corners of your room, under the tables, and even behind the screens of your computers, there's space. And even within the walls that appear to look solid, there are gaps. There is space within them. Even if not within the plaster and the wood, the simple fact that all of these are atoms and molecules means that there's nothing but space in between those atoms and molecules. Space as vast as the space between this planet and the moon. Space as vast as this planet and the sun. The space between this planet and the sun. Incredible amounts of space within our body, around our body, in the walls, in the glass. And so this light moving through this space into the gardens outside, into the streets, into the common areas, all around your building. And now letting the light travel the way light travels. Completely free. What does it feel like to experience freedom? See if you can experience the freedom that this light would experience. Well, you are this light. So feel that freedom that comes with this new form that we are adopting. It simply moves, and it no longer matters that we cannot fly or travel because of this virus. It seems to move through oceans and continents, islands, reaching the peaks of mountains and the deepest valleys. It moves through the surfaces of the ocean, penetrating, moving even beneath the surface of these oceans to the deepest depths, where there is stillness and even darkness. Darkness possible only because of the absence of light, and for no other reason. Maybe that's where we experience pain and discomfort, anger, just the absence of this light that we sometimes cover through thoughts and beliefs, which we have just released as we released our past. And now the light, it reaches the deepest depths of the oceans. It reaches everywhere. Everywhere. Everywhere is a little bit difficult to comprehend. So let's just call it the present moment. This present moment filled with this light of awareness.